Coming up on show 881, the Lucid Air breaks speed records at the drag strip. Stick around, I'll tell you more. Plus, Nissan delivering their 500,000th Leaf, why Ford won't want to build their own batteries, and why EVs and hybrids will be quiet for just a little bit longer. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily for Wednesday, 2nd of September. My name is Martin Lee, and I go through every EV story I can find online and bring it to you in a podcast of just the news you need to know in 15 or 20 minutes every single day. And normally I don't sound this ill. I'm sorry, I'm still trying to fight off. It's just a cold, I promise, nothing more serious. Yes, I've had emails going, do you have the COVID? Definitely not. But yeah, a cough and a cold, and unfortunately not feeling great this week, but nothing more serious. Thank you very much to a Patreon partner who I talked to a lot, has supported the show for a long time. Now, Rajiv Narayan went electric about 3 years ago with his Bolt and got rid of all gas cars from his household and has never looked back, and just upped his supporter level on Patreon to be a partner of the show. Now, someone parting with $50 a month to put this show on the air. Because if I didn't have that, I would have to pick up other freelance work, other work, and I wouldn't make this show. I wouldn't have time to make this show and spend time, having a life and doing things with my family. And so it is so essential that we keep Patreon going, and thank you, Rajiv. It's just amazing. Obviously, there's no pressure to do it because we'll make the show thanks to Patreon. But if you ever get a chance to have a look at the page, get any value out of the show, if you learn anything from this show occasionally, I would invite you to, but I know, post-COVID, everyone's having a tough time in places, and so no pressure at all. Okay, lead story today, Lucid. The Lucid Air, the EV that's coming. We find out more on the 9th of September, but it's coming next year. It's almost finished. It's just broken some EV speed records at the drag strip 1 week ahead of their big reveal event. They're now bragging about how fast their all-electric sedan is. We knew it was going to be fast, but we didn't know how fast. In a video shared today, Lucid Motors showed off the Air covering the quarter mile, and they did the quarter mile in 9.9 seconds, which, if you don't pay any attention to quarter mile times, and I never used to, it was never really my thing, but of course with EV drag strip races and YouTubes, you end up watching more of them. That is insanely fast. Needless to say, Tesla fans online have absolutely, the hardcore cult fans have absolutely lost it because they can't deal with the fact that any car could possibly be quicker than a Tesla. However, it's great because it just raises the game, doesn't it? It rises, the tide will rise and all boats will float. So, no doubt we've got Battery Day from Tesla coming soon. Plaid Model S, that's obviously going to be quicker, but quicker than the Air? Well, we don't know. It's fun to find out. Let's all be happy and positive and together and not just attacking another car that isn't their personal favourite. Anyway, this story is about Lucid, and so let's talk about them. The quarter mile in 9.9 seconds. According to the company, this EV is the world's quickest production saloon car. According to Engadget, Lucid Air's 1,080 horsepower powertrain allows the vehicle to do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. Autoblog points out that Lucid also explaining the EV coming with 2 drive units, but they're so small. Actually, there is room down the line to make a hardcore version of this because they've really worked on packaging the motors and designing those. Each motor is capable of 650 horsepower, small enough to fit inside a standard airplane carry-on, much smaller than you might imagine when they've shown pictures of these, and so it does make room for 3. You can have a 3-motor Lucid Air, which would just be insane, like Tesla Roadster levels of performance. So 9th of September, we find out more. Looking forward to this, and let's find out some more details. We know the range is going to be 517 miles, which is just unbelievable. 113 kilowatt-hour battery. We know the cells are coming from, just about the best of the best out there, LG Chem, and the car looks great. It's not going to be cheap, starting at 60 grand, but those, the top line models over 100. But this is how it always goes. Always, technology, whether it's I saw a fold-out phone yesterday, not a flip phone, but, a dual-screen fold-out mobile phone, because they're trying to make those a thing. I'm not sure we need them. But it was $2,000, right? Was it Samsung or was it $2,000? I'm not going to buy that phone, but at some point that technology will trickle down. So that's how it works with cars. Yes, I've had people in my mentions on Twitter going, oh, that's all well and good, but I can't buy it for 20 grand. Deep breath. Welcome to Twitter. Smile. Don't reply anything sarcastic, Martin. Move on. Okay, next story. Huge congratulations to the Nissan team. Nissan celebrating today the delivery of the 500,000th Leaf since December 2010 to a customer in Norway, one of the biggest markets, of course, for EVs, and the Leaf as well. No press release, official press release on this that we've seen, but we did see a video online about it. Let's take a look at Bjørn Newland's report. With about 44,000 sales, Norway took about 9% of all Leafs, about 10% of all Leafs, but there was imports as well, so would have been way over 10%, says Inside EVs. The all-time number one Nissan Leaf, the number one EV for so many years. They had an early lead. The Leaf was smashing it. It was leading the way. And for a long time, if you wanted an EV, you had to buy a Leaf. Through 2019, 2020, I got the feeling that maybe they were just backing off developing the Leaf anymore, even though there was the bigger battery, the 62 kilowatt hour, but it was so highly priced. I didn't think they were trying to sell it very hard, and that made sense because then we find about the Nissan Ariya, which is not the replacement to the Leaf, but the car where they want their attention, their gaze to fall, and so that would make sense why they're not pushing the Leaf anymore. But it had a great run. 500,000 cars delivered is just amazing. Of course, I should point out, if you didn't make the connection, Model 3 overtook the Leaf some time ago, and that's not going to change for a very long time because the Model 3 is selling at a higher rate, and the Model Y is still so new, not even being built in China and Berlin yet, but of course it will be. By the end of the year, Model Y in China, we've seen prototypes on the back of car carriers, and then Berlin will make Model Y to begin with, and so at some point that will be the world's biggest selling EV, but for now, it's the Model 3. Okay, let's move on. Staying with Tesla, and their battery strategy will not be adopted by one of the legacy automakers, Ford, because Jim Hackett, the company's current CEO, says there is no advantage in spending any capital, any money, on owning your own cell-making facilities. During Ford's earnings call, Morgan Stanley's Adam Jonas asked about the company's strategy to make their own EV batteries in-house as opposed to sourcing cells from third-party companies, looking outside to Panasonic and LG. Says Teslarati. Well, Hackett, who elected to retire from his post as head of Ford earlier this year, stated that his team did a deep dive on this matter. Well, you'd hope so too, wouldn't you? But they did a deep dive, and they came to the conclusion it was not advantageous to make their own battery cells. It proved not to be. For Ford, at least, the company will continue to go the path that it is now, which is resourcing and acquiring batteries and cells from third-party suppliers rather than researching their own technology, improving their own technology, and building their own facilities across the world. Which, I get it. There's two arguments, aren't there? Because if you're not going to you need to make a lot of EVs. You need to make a lot of EVs to make it make sense to build your own cells. Look, Tesla have been around how long? And only now, on the 22nd of September, when we get Battery Day, will we find out their plans for making and developing their own cells. Now, of course, they've been working on that hand in hand very closely with their partners, Panasonic. Also, they have under contract the Canadian, or in Canada, Jeff Dahn and his research team up there doing incredible work on making their EVs better, batteries better and cells better. So Tesla have been doing a lot of work on this, but only now becoming a cell maker themselves, which I think is the agreed outcome, the big outcome of the Battery Day with Tesla, that it's going to be companies that they bought last year, like Maxwell and Hybar, which is a company that specializes in making cells, that they're going to get into that business big time. Of course, they're building cell factories, cell manufacturing facilities in Shanghai, at Gigafactory in Berlin as well. So, but we know that because Tesla are battery constrained, because they want to do more storage, more EVs, trucks and cars and semi-trucks. And so for Tesla, it makes sense. For Ford, if they don't have any ambitions with EVs, if they don't have a future where they're like, we're only going to make EVs and we're going to make tens of millions of them, therefore we need to invest now in battery factories, then they wouldn't do it. So I think that speaks more to what you got to read between the lines, because the press release will always say XYZ car manufacturer is announcing today their plan to be the world leader in e-mobility. Like, all press releases start like that. Like, every car, whoever they are. Like, when Toyota release a plug-in, they'll be like, this is our first step in our plan to dominate. Like, it's, you got to read past the press release and look at where they're spending money. And Ford don't think at the minute it's worth investing. And I would kind of agree, because if you don't have those ambitions, why would you spend money on a factory that isn't going to be used? Like, that makes sense. So I would like them to be doing it. I would like them to have bigger ambitions, but if that's where they are, they can get enough batteries in for the Mach-E from external companies, well, they just become... Well, look, that's what car companies are really good at. They have been so good. Like, many of them don't make their own engines. So obviously, many do. But they don't make their own seats and steering wheels and wiring looms. Many of them do, but so many are just really, really good assemblers. Like car makers became very, very good over 100 years at managing supply chains and putting the pieces of the jigsaw together. But other people made the jigsaw pieces, whereas Tesla, like, it's just a different way of doing business. They want everything. They want the whole jigsaw. They want to make all the pieces. And that's, again, good and bad. Like, it's like they have total control over their cars. We talked about this a lot before. Like, if they want to turn your car off after you've bought it, I mean, literally, they can. Don't underestimate that. So there's a very close connection they have with their cars because they want that whole process, and different ways of doing it. Well, you decide what's better. And the final Tesla story today, they announced a $5 billion capital raise to take advantage of their meteoric rise in their stock price. Elon Musk previously said the company wasn't interested in new capital raises as it believed it was capable of financing their ambitions and their growth through their current operations. And they couldn't resist, though. First of all, they raised $2 billion in February. And then, according to Electrek today, just as with the last capital raise, Tesla didn't specify any use of the proceeds other than, and I quote, strengthening the balance sheets. Well, they have, it's about 50-50 actually. They have about $8.5 billion in cash. They're not cash poor. They also have about $8.5 billion in debt. Now, the sale of $5 billion of new shares is going to put a little bit of pressure on this incredible run of Tesla's stock price, but will it harm it in the long term? No. Do I think it's a bubble? Yes. Am I qualified to say that? Probably not. I'm no financial expert. It just freaks me out when you see the stock going up by 10 and 13% every single day from people just jumping on board just because, oh my God, this is hot, let's jump on board, rather than really understanding the company, which we know is going incredible places. Now worth like $430 or $450 billion market capitalization. Kind of blows my mind. So I stay well away from stories like that because at some point something will happen. Somebody will get burned. And I don't want them pointing their finger at me, being like, you told me to invest in Tesla. So you absolutely shouldn't unless you know what you're doing. But with Battery Day around the corner, so much heat around the company, people are definitely buying at the minute the rumors of what it'll be. Whether they do Battery Day and people are disappointed and they sell on the news, we'll have to wait and see. But look, it's been an amazing year. And so anyone that owns Tesla shares, no one's complaining. They've all made lots and lots and lots of money. And plenty of people diving into that stock as well, following the 5-to-1 split. A little while ago, earlier this week, wasn't it? Right, let's move on. And before we tell you about the Volkswagen ID.3 arriving in the UK, a little reminder, I'm going to be on this weekend on the TechMeme Ride Home podcast. Should be this weekend. We've recorded it already. Depends on Brian's schedule. It's one of those podcasts that I don't know about you, I've got tons in my feed. Like, I have loads of podcasts that I subscribe to, but I'm commuting less these days. I'm doing more working from home. I'm traveling less. So I get less time to listen to podcasts. And maybe you found that the same. There is one show which I will always make time for, and that is the TechMeme Ride Home. Because in 15 and 20 minutes, it's a daily podcast. Brian sums up everything happening in the world of tech. Yeah, where have you heard this format before? Yeah. Basically, what I do for EVs, Brian is doing in the world at a much bigger level of the world of technology, and it's insanely popular, like many, many times bigger than this podcast. 2 years now, 700 episodes in, and the TechMeme Ride Home has been Silicon Valley's #1 go-to place for a daily tech podcast. And if you haven't listened to it yet, then I suggest you subscribe, because at 5 p.m. every day Eastern, so again, if you're one of my US listeners for your journey home, if you are commuting, hence TechMeme Ride Home, then you can get all of today's top stories and opinion and tweets and conversations in one service. If you haven't got time to spend all day reading the blogs, you can listen to the TechMeme Ride Home. Make sure that you subscribe. Go to your podcast app, whether it's iTunes, whether you use Apple devices or your favorite app, or maybe online, search Ride Home and hit the subscribe button. I'll be on this weekend on Saturday talking to his audience about the wider world of EVs, how we see it from Europe and the global perspective as well. If you want to listen to that show, it should be this weekend. If not, it'll be in the next couple of weeks. Okay, VW just hit British shores with the ID.3. Volkswagen's pivotal EV, the ID.3, has finally reached these here shores as the first customer cars arrive, not into Southampton, which is very close to where I'm recording this podcast on the south coast, but into a port called Grimsby. And a lovely place it is too. Earmarked for customers that pre-booked the first edition examples earlier this year, these cars are fully loaded and they are going to be delivered sometime in September. Volkswagen does claim the entire production and delivery process is carbon neutral, even including the shipping, says James Atwood, writing for Autocar. He says that the limited run first edition models are priced at $38,880, only offered to people who were previously in the queue, as it were, having paid their deposit. First editions of the ID.3 will feature the mid-size battery, 260 miles, and they're all going to be handed over in September. Like I say, they're calling it Super September, where every country, maybe even on the same day, maybe even at the same time, like a big party. It's such an important car for VW. It is really pivotal to the company's future. The platform is, at least, because those cars are all going to be handed over. They're not ready. The software isn't ready, but that's okay, because they're going to call those people that take the cars now first movers, which is somewhat sugaring the pill. However, they are first. You get to be in a club. You become a first mover. Do you get a badge? Do you get to meet up? Anyway, I'm only joking. The software that isn't ready isn't really a deal breaker. It's like the app on your phone, the App Connect features, the heads-up display, and stuff like that. None of this is a deal breaker, and they're gonna have it fixed, and they'll software update the cars. And heck, look, half of Tesla is in beta. Autopilot is still badged as beta. Tesla release stuff that isn't ready and get praised for it. You know, VW do this and get absolutely smashed in the comments of being, I can't believe the software isn't ready. Well, hang on, your main competitor has got a product out there that they charge $8,000 extra for, and they call it beta. Anyway, it continues to shock me and surprise me how different people view different companies. That's not to excuse some of the very bad things they did. They were very, very bad boys and girls recently. So VW trying to make up for those diesel issues. I'll pop a link to Autocar in the show notes if you want to read more. EVs and hybrids are getting an extension to get quieter. Automakers getting 6 more months to meet the new federal requirements in the US for noise-making devices on EVs and hybrids. Reuters reporting today the extension being granted because of the pandemic. The quiet car rules, as they are called, means that EVs have to make a noise, anything, a beep, a hum. Play music, as Elon suggested on Twitter recently, up to 18.6 miles an hour. As a warning to pedestrians and cyclists. There's some fossil cars these days that are really, really quiet at low speeds. Just as quiet when the engine's kind of barely ticking over, or some of them have mild hybrid technology. They don't have to have this, but EVs being singled out to make a silly noise at low speeds. They say that it needs to keep pedestrians safe when they're staring at their mobile phones and crossing the road without looking. No exhaust noise. Is the reason, and no wind buffeting at low speeds, regulators have said. I mean, there is a very serious issue about this, of course, with people who are visually impaired and the blind, and we need to make sure that people are safe, and cyclists are safe as well. Obviously, the amount of times I've been driving around a supermarket car park and someone just walked out in front of my EV and I've slammed on the brakes and they've gone, they see me at the last minute. So EVs are quiet, don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing for this either way. Right, let's move on. Remember the Volkswagen ID.R? The electric race car is returning to the famous Goodwood. Welcome back, ID.R. 411 days after the record-breaking drive up the Tiananmen Mountain in China. They once again get to take the wraps off the ID.R. Back at Goodwood. Speed Week is going to be in October, after the coronavirus pandemic caused the cancellation of the Festival of Speed, legendary Goodwood Revival as well, which I've been to. It's a great dress-up. Everyone goes along in kind of period clothes. See some old vehicles. It's amazing. I've been to that. It's a great. The Revival is great. Festival of Speed I've been to, and it's not a million miles away on the south coast for me to head along to Goodwood. Speed Week though, which is their new event for this year post-COVID, historic cars, race cars meeting present vehicles and visions of the future, all in one event. It's a 3-day automotive festival behind closed doors with extensive digital and virtual presence. multiple live streams, and I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I'll see if I can get involved in some way if anybody wants a commentator on some electric stuff. Having taken victory at the Festival of Speed for the past 2 years with the ID.R, they are back, not taking place on Goodwood Hill, but on the motor circuit, which is about 3.8 kilometres, isn't it? So interesting to see the ID.R doing a circuit. Finally, in Norway, last month in August, 70% of the EV market, or the car market, was taken by EVs. Wowzers! That's up from 49% a year ago, and it's more proof that Norway are leading the way and the rest of us are following. This is going to be the story everywhere sooner or later. Pure electric battery cars took 53% of the new car market. Let that sink in for a bit. September is showing signs of being a record-breaking month. There's more ships arriving with Tesla Model 3. VW ID.3 is going for Super September, and Polestar 2 just showed up. According to Max Holland for Clean Technica, the top-selling BEVs in August were the usual suspects, like Model 3 and Polestar 2 starting their deliveries. Already at the number 4 spot, Mercedes-Benz EQC had a great July, having a great August in Norway as well, which is good. I love the Mercedes-Benz EQC. I've long been perplexed why it's not sold better. Okay, the range isn't going to win any records, but it's good enough. Performance, amazing. Luxury, super nice. Great badge on the front. So maybe people are just catching on to what I've been saying for ages. Look at the EQC. It's a great Mercedes-Benz. Not cheap, though. I'll pop a link to Clean Technica in the show notes if you would like to read more. And that's your show for today. Apologies once again for being a bit croaky and being under the weather. Hopefully all back to normal very soon. There are 880 shows in the archive. That archive is online. Every single show is on the blog. It's always in the podcast feed as well, but it's in the blog, which is evnewsdaily.com. There you go. It's an easy one. I've got my .com. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, you can on that website, in your podcast apps. It's free. It's all paid for by Patreon supporters like Phil Roberts of Electric Future, Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, Porsche of the Village in Cincinnati, Audi of Cincinnati East, Volvo Cars of Cincinnati East, NationalCarCharging.com and AlohaCharge.com. Derek Riley as well from the EV Review Ireland YouTube channel. All my premium partners on this show. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.